Okay, let's take a look at John chapter 2. Don't forget, hit that full screen button if you're watching this on a mobile phone. Now, it says in verse 1, the next day there was a wedding celebration in the village of Cana in Galilee, and Jesus' mother was there because that's where he's from. And Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the celebration. The wine supply ran out during the festivities, so Jesus' mother told him they have no more wine. As you read this, it's pretty interesting, the interaction that Jesus has with his mom, but basically she's going to say, hey, why don't you perform a miracle? Jesus hadn't performed any miracles yet. He hadn't officially started his ministry, but he does. And so it says in verse 11, the miraculous sign at Cana in Galilee was the first time Jesus revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Now, what's interesting about this is that his first miracle was to turn water into wine, not like some churches might think, to turn wine into water. And the reason is because I think wine represents joy. And I think Jesus did this first miracle like this to show that he came to bring joy. He came to bring life into the world. Contrast that with Moses' first miracle. You can look at that in the Old Testament. But Moses' first miracle was to turn water into blood, and blood represents judgment. So Jesus was coming to bring joy, not to bring judgment. And we're going to see that as we continue on through John chapter 2. As you read a little bit further down, you'll see in verse 13 that Jesus was in Jerusalem for the Passover celebration. And in the temple area, the Jewish temple, he saw merchants selling stuff, cattle, sheep, doves, for sacrifices. And as you read on, you're going to see that he gets angry and he flips over the tables. And the reason is because he wants to make sure that the temple is not used for the wrong purposes. He thought that they had turned this into this religious thing, this institution. And so he's coming to bring a different kind of relationship with God. And then he says this in verse 19. He says, all right, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Now, the people thought that he was talking about the physical temple, but that's not what he meant. He was actually talking for the very first time about his death and resurrection, that when they destroyed his body, his temple, that in 3 days he would be raised from the dead. And that's in fact what Jesus came to do. That's why he was there. This is the first time he really talks about that in John. Now, as you scroll a little bit further, you see that he meets this guy. In just a minute, he's going to meet a guy named Nicodemus. That'll be in the next chapter. But this chapter ends like this. Because of the miraculous signs that Jesus did in Jerusalem at the Passover, many began to trust in him, but Jesus didn't trust them because he knew all about people. And here's our key verse for the day, verse 25. No one needed to tell Jesus about human nature, for he knew what was in each person's heart. See, the Bible says that Jesus knew about people. He knew that they were broken. He knew that they were needy. He knew they were sin-filled. He knew that they were selfish. But that's why he came to the world. He came to the world to save people. People like you, people like me. So now you're ready to read John chapter 2, and we'll see you tomorrow for chapter 3.